Welcome back. Tributes have been paid throughout the day to Marie Colvin, the world-renowned foreign correspondent who was killed today by a government shell in Syria. David Cameron and Ed Miliband did Prime Minister's Question Time. The News International proprietor, Rupert Murdoch, and a host of her fellow journalists and friends all spoke of her rare combination of courage, integrity, talent and charm.
All of us who've ever reported in war encountered her somewhere. The last time I met Marie Colvin in action was in the early mayhem of Tahrir Square in Cairo. She spoke to us last night from Homs. A few hours later, she was killed in a direct Syrian army missile attack on the building where she was taking shelter. She was a one-off and one of the most courageous of our age. It was amid the barrage of Syrian army shells raining down on Homs that Marie Colvin spoke to us a few hours before she was killed.
Jonathan, there's been absolutely ferocious shelling this morning, starting at about 6:30 in the morning. I'm on a street. Half the houses on this street have been hit, including the one I'm in and lost the top floor. The Syrians are not allowing civilians to leave. Anyone who gets on the street, if they're not hit by a shell, they're sniped.
She had scrambled over walls, along ditches, and ultimately met up with the Free Syrian Army inside the besieged city.
I saw Marie in Beirut the week before last, and we talked about sneaking across the border to Homs, and I said I thought it was too dangerous and I couldn't do it. But she said it's what we do, and so she went ahead. And then about 2 days ago, I got an email from her saying, I finally made it to Bab el-Amr in Homs. It may not be the smartest move I've ever made, but she said it is so anger-making, it's worth it. And that, I think, is what it was all about for Marie. And I spoke to her yesterday on Skype, and she said, this is the worst thing we've ever seen, and they're getting away with it.
Marie Colvin died as she had lived, on the edge, determined to speak harrowing truth to power. This, her final report in last Sunday's Sunday Times.
The shelling last Friday was the most intense yet, and the wounded were rushed to the clinic in the backs of cars by family members. The kids are screaming all the time, Hamida said. I feel so helpless. She began weeping. We feel so abandoned. They've given Bashar al-Assad the green light to kill us.
Here, political power today marked her death, but had nothing new to say of Syria.
This is a desperately sad reminder of the risks that journalists take to inform the world of what is happening and the dreadful events in Syria.
She was a brave and tireless reporter across many continents and in many difficult situations. She was also an inspiration to women in her profession.
An early assignment was to go and see Gaddafi at the time of the US bomb attacks on Libya. She got to the heart of his weirdness and paranoia long before others.
He says, I think President Reagan must be mad. You know, how can he be doing these things?
Her contacts were incredible. She probably knew Yasser Arafat better than any journalist anywhere. Her courage extended from Chechnya to Bosnia, from Iraq to Afghanistan and to Sri Lanka. It was there that she lost her eye. She was being smuggled out across the border. A soldier threw a grenade at her, which slashed into her face and chest. At St. Bride's Church, the journalist church in London, she spoke of the dangers a war reporter faces.
Journalists covering combat shoulder great responsibilities and face difficult choices. Sometimes they pay the ultimate price.
Marie's mother recounted what her daughter had said to her editor.
She told him that she was on a story that was important and she wanted to finish it and that she would leave today. And that's really hard because it was just one day.
The shell that killed Marie Colvin killed the French photojournalist Rémi Ochli and wounded her own photographer, Paul Conway. Rupert Murdoch has said they are moving heaven and earth to get him out. Crucially, too, the most active Homs Facebooker, Rami Saeed, was also killed yesterday. Assad's forces have silenced a great voice in Marie Colvin. It can only be hoped that the information she transmitted to the outside world before she died will not have fallen on deaf ears. She spoke truth to power. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Jonathan Miller joins us now. Jonathan, an extraordinary programme tonight because we end with Marie Colvin, yet we began with a man who escaped from Homs and brought that searing imagery to our screens.
John, Marie's death focused all of us and sobered us up to the realities of the risks entailed in war reporting, as you yourself are aware too. It is a profession of enormous risk, and Marie Colvin was very aware of those risks. When I spoke to her on Skype yesterday afternoon, she told me she knew exactly what the risks were. She had been shelled just in the same house just last week, and you know, what happened was always a possibility. The thing is that she was motivated to tell the story that would otherwise be virtually unreported, were it not for a handful of Syrian video journalists and an even smaller handful of foreign correspondents and photographers. The film that we ran on our programme tonight shows exactly what Marie Colvin believed in, that the risks are sometimes worth taking to show to the world the horrors of what goes on in a place like Homs, which is under the most brutal bombardment. And without that eyewitness testimony, without those reports, we would have a black hole, as we now do, as a result of their deaths.
Jonathan Miller, and it's worth pointing out that actually the flow of information from Homs has virtually dried to nothing since these events unfolded today.